my husband once said to me, "Oh, I think you need to lose a bit of weight. Your legs are rubbing together," as we were walking out to go for a meal. And I remember crying all the way in the car to the meal, crying all the way through the meal, which I didn't eat, and crying all the way back. And he said to me, I did it because I wanted to motivate you. Well, I put on 3 stone to show him how fat I could get. So that didn't work for me, just to me.
Welcome to the Lifestyle First podcast, discussing lifestyle medicine and making self-care as easy as 1, 2, 3. And now your host, lifestyle medicine physician and coach, Dr. Alka Patel.
Hi, hey, and hello everybody, and welcome to, can you believe we're on series 9, and this is episode 1 of the new year, new season. So happy new year to you all. 2022, this is the year that I think through this podcast, what I really want to do is put your life right back in your hands. So today I have some help to do that with us, because I've got with me a very, very special speaker called Cheryl Chapman. And she's going to help us today, hi there Cheryl, to explore today's question, that one question we're asking today, which is, how can you start your year with purpose? Right, so let me tell you about Cheryl before we kick off with this episode. So now Cheryl is the author of the fabulous book, Find Your Why, Be Seen, Be Heard, Be You. And she's also the creator of the Find Your Why formula. And more than that, she's an international award-winning professional public speaker and a speaker coach. And I know that today is going to be a fun conversation, because pretty much everything Cheryl does is injected with fun. So Cheryl, let's get going. A really warm welcome to you.
Thank you very much. I'll try to keep it fun but not smutty. Oh no, I don't know if I can commit to that. Anyway, there we go.
Didn't take long, did it? But look, Cheryl, I think it's that time of year, isn't it? We're here again, aren't we? That time that we make promises, we create those New Year's resolutions, and we all know, don't we, that give it 4 weeks and 80% of those resolutions are in that area gathering dust again, aren't they? So what do you think's going on? Why do we actually give up so quickly?
A woman of my age, in my 60th decade now, I've realised through a lot of errors myself, ask me how I know about this. I believe the reason why these elements are not long, we said we're going to do things, is a couple of reasons really. So one is that we don't really want to do it. We just think we should, because we think everybody else is doing it and we've got a bit of FOMO, or we think that other people want us to do something, which means that they've probably commented at some stage. So, for example, my husband once said to me, "Oh, I think you need to lose a bit of weight. Your legs are rubbing together," as we were walking out to go for a meal. And I remember crying all the way in the car to the meal, crying all the way through the meal, which I didn't eat, and crying all the way back. And he said to me, I did it because I wanted to motivate you. Well, I put on 3 stone to show him how fat I could get. So that didn't work for me, just me. But sometimes if somebody says something, it can sort of initially motivate you, because you may be embarrassed, or, oh my gosh, I want to please them, right? So that could be the reason. And of course, anything that somebody else really wants you to do is not really going to motivate you long term. Yeah. And then the second reason is because I'm a trained RTT therapist, so RapidTransformational Therapy, trained by the amazing Marissa Peer. And it's because there's something emotionally that's stopping you. So we can have all the best intentions with the logical left brain going, right, we need to lose weight. So we'll make a plan of action and we'll do this and we'll do that. And yes, we'll do it on the 1st of January or the 2nd of January, because we've never said, we all start on a Monday, or, whatever it is. And all this logical bit is perfectly brilliant if you are actually trying to do a spreadsheet or something like that. But if you've had any emotional interaction, baggage, whatever you want to call it, experience, and let's be honest, I can put my hands, my toes and whatever else in the air to say, yeah, that's me. When I think about making myself more healthy, instantly I go back to that conversation that I had with my husband on the stairs when he said that to me. So there's a bit of me that goes, well, I'm not going to prove him right. Little cynic inside of me, inside my emotion, or the little rebel inside of me goes, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. And we don't necessarily even know about these things. I've spent a lot of time looking at, elements of my life before I even started to play with other people's lives. And so the emotion is like, you cannot beat emotion with logic, fundamentally flawed. So I think it's the two things. One, we either don't really want to do it, or two, there's something that we haven't quite got to grips with. And it's a little bit like saying there's some, rising damp in the room. Just because you paint over it, put a bit of wallpaper on it, or put a unit in front of it, it ain't going away. So that's got to be treated first. So that's my take on it.
Which again, thinking with my cortical brain makes complete logical sense, doesn't it? If you haven't got a big enough emotive reason behind why you want to do something, the chances are you'll start and you'll stop. Because I agree, that sense of motivation is great to get you going, but what then keeps you going? So from what you're describing, it's that emotional driver, isn't it, that needs to be really strong.
It is, yeah. And, we know as humans, anyone who's done any kind of personal development will be fully aware that we're motivated by pain and gain. And some people prefer the carrot and some people prefer the stick, or they don't necessarily prefer it, but it motivates them. When I'm working with my wise women, and I call them wise because they found their why, as in WHY, as in purpose, I have a little neat trick that I help them to really become motivated. And it's using both of those elements, but actually the pain is the big element because it's more emotional. If someone says, oh yeah, when I've done this, I'll do that and I'll gift myself something. Interestingly enough, a lot of my women struggle with gifting something to themselves. Mm-hmm. It's really, really interesting. But when we bring the pain element in, oh my gosh, I get what I call my hashtags. So I get things like the bitch ain't getting it and no way, and lots of colourful language comes out because the emotion's there. So I know I've hit a little pain point, and then I use that against them with the best will in the world, as a little bit like a stick. Doesn't mean I don't go around beating them up, but I will use it and go, just remember, hashtag no effing way, or or whatever they've come up with, and I'll quote it back to them, and that motivates them a lot more.
Yeah, no, completely get that. So let's pick up on what you were talking about there, which is why and purpose and reason. And we're talking a lot more about this nowadays, aren't we? I know Simon Sinek, back with his TEDx talk, how was it about great leaders? He really started coining that phrase for all of us, didn't he? Know your why. But what is that? What is it that we're talking about when you are talking about what's your why, what's your purpose? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. And it was Simon Sinek who, credit where credit's due, really kind of got me intrigued. But start with why I found very corporate and very masculine. And I was kind of like, well, what about the women? I don't really want a story that relates to going to war in a tank, which is what Simon was doing, although I really loved what he was doing. So I wrote Find Your Why, specifically with a feminine edge, if you like. It doesn't mean to say that it won't work for men, but I kind of thought Simon had maybe, wrapped that up and that was done. And then a year later, Simon wrote a book called Find Your Why. So I was kind of like, yeah, he inspired me. And I'm sure he doesn't really know I exist, but I'd love to think that I inspired him. But interestingly enough, back in the day, my business partner, Marion Bevington, and myself, we were doing little videos, and we were talking at lots of events. Mm-hmm. And we've been doing these videos for about a year. And then someone said, what is a why? Yeah. And it's like, oh my gosh, we had just done that big assuming, making an ass of you and me. And of course, then you'll see, if you ever watch any of our videos, all of a sudden we're going, so blah, 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 find your why. So what do we mean by why? We start asking that question. So two things for me. The why is your big reason for being on the planet. Like really big, like why are you actually even here having this human experience in this body right now? And then the second why is why are you where you are right now? And of course that brings in the elements of, what's potentially happened to you when you were younger. And it tends to be when you're younger, but not exclusively. That may well mean that you're not living at your 100%, if you like. Mm-hmm. But also, what are you doing that's absolutely freaking awesome? Because it doesn't have to be all doom and gloom. You can use what is brilliant, why you're where you are in terms of like accolades or whatever it is that you do really great, and bring the two together. Mm-hmm. And that why is really important because I think until you have knowledge you don't know you don't know. So what's holding you back? So the why for me is the passion, the purpose, the reason why you're on the planet, and understanding why you could be even more freaking awesome if you only knew what was potentially holding you back.
Now, that's not an easy question to answer, is it? Why are you on this planet? There's been huge philosophical dates all the way back to BC and beyond. So those aren't really easy questions. And maybe then, from what you're describing, the way we try to get at that is by creating those goals, is by creating resolutions, the things that we do at the beginning of the year or start on Monday. Is that an attempt for us to get closer to maybe living with a bit more purpose because we've set a goal?
I think it depends what the goal is, if I'm honest. So if it's like, to lose weight, I don't think our why is to lose weight, for example. But I think that your why could be to be healthy so that you can.
Yeah.
You see, there's something else behind it. And what I find a lot of people kind of miss is that, yes, of course, you are doing something for you, or you might be doing something for other people, but it actually fundamentally means not achieving the action. It's in the desire to have a feeling. And so I don't talk about goals. We talk about awareness, we talk about intention, and we talk about manifesting. So it's an aim to find your why. Well, we're not aiming, we're going to do it. That's the way we kind of do it. But it is in terms of intention. And I talk about this, and we don't really know where this came from, but whoever said it, and if it's you, please tell us, if you ever hear us talking about it, so we can give you credit where credit's due, that the intention is the wind beneath the wings of a goal. So it carries the goal through. If you know what you really, really want, zigga zigga, good old Spice Girls, tell me what you want, what you really, really want. Most people don't know. No, hi, how are you? Oh, I'm not bad. Well, I'm not asking you how you're not. I'm asking you what you want, and how you are, And this just tends to be, when I first started working with therapy clients, it was like, well, I don't want him to do this, and I don't want her to do that, and I don't want this to happen. And it's like, great, so what do you want? People would generally go quiet. They're like, okay. So what is it you want? And ultimately, your why, for example, is a feeling. But what is your why feeling, for example, Alka? It won't be the same as my why feeling. So we need to find out what the why feeling is. And then once you know what your why feeling is, it's really super freaking easy. Because if you haven't got that feeling for a long period of time, look, my why is a ready break glow. That's what I call it. I name it. And it's outside of me, and I've got it now, and I'm getting a bit warm, and a bit sweaty. But it's okay. It's not orgasmic. You're okay. But it's like this feeling of warmth and love and joy. And it's that. And I can just describe it with those few words, right? And I can bring it back on at any given moment. But I'm not going to have that when I'm attending a funeral. But that's okay, because I can't have it all the time, otherwise I don't realise how amazing it is. But when I know that I've got it, it means that someone gives me an opportunity. For example, you invite me to come and speak here, and I go, will I get my ready break glow? And I go, yes, I will. I believe I will. I'm coming, right? And then I'll invite, and say, yeah, that's great. If you want me, then I'm here. If it's like something where I go, will I get my ready break glow feeling? And I go, no, but I might feel like a wet fish or a slush puppy blue. I haven't got my why feeling, have I? So there's no point in me whatsoever moving towards that, because it's not my purpose. It's not my why. So when you've got it, you're on the right path, because you're feeling this, most days. And again, there are times when, I'm human, having a human experience. So sometimes I'll be up and sometimes I'll be down. But if that down is for a long length of time, I have to start looking at what it is I'm doing and why, asking the questions why my feeling isn't there. And if it's short term, I just go, that's okay. Today I'm not feeling it. That's pretty much it. So getting that feeling and knowing what you want. So when you're setting your intentions and you go, okay, will I get my why feeling if I drop a dress size? Well, I'm going to feel good, and it's probably going to give me a glow. So yeah, I can go for that now. But if I go, well, I'm not really quite sure if it'll make any difference, I've got no motivation to do that.
Yeah.
None whatsoever. And if that's just because, I remember someone once saying to me, I'll never put you on my stage because you need to lose some weight. That's not my intention. That's not my feeling. That's their feeling. Yeah. And so it didn't motivate me. And I still stood on stages across the world because I knew what my feeling was and I went for my feeling. So I put myself on the same vibration. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, God, completely. You had me at the ready, break, glow, because just really bizarrely, this is sort of this whole serendipity thing, is if I was literally talking about the ready, break, glow with one of my clients this morning. And because it's so visual, we can all get that and understand that glow up, that warmth, that feeling. And I love your explanation, actually, Cheryl, that this doesn't have to be with you all the time, because sometimes what we do is we set that why with such vigor and intention and determination, and not allow ourselves to just flux with it and flow with it and allow it to show up or not show up depending on the context of our life. So really grateful that you've actually talked about that today, because I think that's really important, isn't it, for people to recognize, is that this is not being about peak constantly all the time yelling out there, here I am. It's not that at all. It's that feeling, and so I really appreciate that you've been able to bring that up today, so thank you for doing that. But another thing in terms of that feeling, I wonder whether people don't take enough time to recognize that and clock onto it, because we're so busy with the next goal, with the next target, with the next thing, that you don't give yourself enough space to even know that you've got your ready, break, glow, right?
Yeah, this all came about because I'd been able to manifest, and manifest for me is AKA move your ass, because I don't believe you get it by sitting underneath a willow tree praying. Like, you have to move in the direction of where you want to go. And so I'd manifested a beautiful barn in the middle of a field where we were putting on events, pre-COVID. And I'm going to say even in COVID, because, if people needed me, like, I was there, if you like. Beautiful grounds outside, very, 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 very peaceful and calm. And there's no way with a logical mind that I should ever have been able to be in that space. And so I was sitting there and I was like, wow, like, I'm pretty glowing every day. Like, maybe it was a HRT, I don't know. But, but I was pretty much in this space of like, wow, so much gratitude that I was like, again, the little cynic inside of me comes out and says, well, how do you know this is it? And I'm like, I don't know. How do I know? And at the risk of sounding like I'm schizophrenic, my grandmother was schizophrenic, by the way. So, but at the risk of sounding like I have a lot of conversations with myself, well, I do, but I think we all do. But mine's kind of quite judgmental, as in, well, how do you know? And I thought, gosh, how do I know if this is it? Is this it? Do I just stop here? Do I go for bigger venue? Like, what do I do now? And I thought, right, okay. It comes back to the feeling. So how do I know it? And I'd been listening to Dr. Joe Dispenza and reading a lot of his work a couple of years ago. And like, wow, that was just like, well, hang on a minute. I know this is my why feeling, but how do I know? Like, I don't know how I'm going to feel if it gets bigger. So my why feeling may change, as I go along. But I thought, like anything, you've got to calibrate where you are right now.
Yeah.
So where was I in that moment? And I was like, how do I get this feeling? And I thought, right, well, at the risk of sounding, it's a bit rude. It is, I do ask a question, raise your hand if you like it when you've had a really great orgasm, because it's in those moments where you are, at the risk of sounding, a bit esoteric, where body, spirit and mind are kind of one, and you're not really thinking about the washing up or whatever. And if you are, I'd suggest you probably have sex with somebody else. But, but in that moment of pure bliss, shall we call it, nothing else matters. Everything is one. I was like, how do I know? And I was like, well, apart from, going back to a moment like that where really I can't really remember, when can I remember of a time when it's like that? And I'm just like in the flow, although only dead fish go with the flow, to be fair. But when it was just magic. That's the only way to describe it. And that's when I'm on stage, and I've got, a few hundred people or maybe even just 20 people, stood in front of me. And I'm not rehearsing, I'm just being, and it's just, they're laughing, I'm laughing, nothing's too serious, because we tend to take life a bit too serious and nobody gets out of life. So, like just being in that moment. And it was then that I said, okay, so how can I now create a process that will enable me to bring that into a way that I can teach it to people who, you're absolutely right, Alka, have never even considered it, because I've never considered it. And I don't think I'm any different from anybody else. I just wanted to know how I could make it tangible, because, this space of woo-woo-ness, as I used to call it, didn't always, he didn't answer enough questions for me. And if I couldn't answer the big, massive questions like you were saying at the beginning, which I couldn't, how could I make it real so people could experience it? And so that, coupled with human design, RTT, NLP, life coaching, all of these places where I could learn about them, it helped me to then bring together my version of it, if you like. And then it was about testing and sharing and seeing if it made any difference in anybody else's life, or it was just for me, because I didn't know.
Oh, amazing, amazing. So let's get to it then. There's going to be people listening today who are at the beginning of the year ready to live with purpose and maybe create their resolution with purpose in mind. So can you give us 3 tips for how to do this? How are we going to start our year with our why, with our purpose?
Yeah. So first of all, it's about how do you want to feel? So if you look at a goal, and I mean, I'll just use, like shedding a few pounds, because I think it's probably something, easily relatable, if you like. So if you say, okay, so I want to shed a few pounds. So the question is, why do you want to do it? So is it for you? Is it because somebody else has said it? And when you've reached where you want to go in terms of, say, shedding a few pounds, what difference is that going to make in your life? So what are you going to be able to do that you can't do right now? How's it going to change? How's it going to impact? Because that's part of the logical bit. But then, of course, we go to the next bit. So how will you feel when that happens? And if that feeling is like, whatever your why feeling is, because it's not everybody's is a ready brick glow. I've got people who've got, fabulous waterfalls and iridescent heart throbs, you know what I mean? Like whatever their feeling is, they name it for them. Will it get you closer to that? Because, so why am I doing it? Is it for me? Is it just because I feel obliged? Because if it is, like, forget it, go do something else. Will it give me a feeling? What will that feeling be? How will I feel? And then how will I be able to use that? So, for example, it might mean that I'm out of breath. I'm going to feel like I've got more joy. I'm going to be able to play, with the grandkids or the kids. I'm going to be able to, not be out of breath and not feel like I'm dying, like every day. So that's a really good start. But then the main thing really for me is then go to that place like it's already existing, and we're looking at ourselves now, and if that means that you drop a dress size, then, you can start looking at, perhaps a dress that you could fit into, or, what would that look like with your head on that body? And how does that feel? And what else does it give you? Because ultimately it gives you a feeling. Now, if that means that because you've lost a little bit of weight or dropped a few pounds, that gives you more confidence, you believe, and it gives you like more determination to help other people, then that's great. But again, why do you want to do that? Because even if you're helping other people, I say, my why is to help others, but that's because I want a feeling that actually I made a difference when I was on the planet. It still comes back to me and my feeling. Yeah? So that's probably 2 really big ones. The third one is, you can make a public declaration, on Facebook or something like that. I personally think it's better if you've got somebody who you can be accountable to that will not let you down. Yeah. So don't choose somebody that you can talk, your way around it. But you've got to really, really want it. And so what's the pleasure points for you? Final point is, what happens if you don't do it? Like, if you don't do it, all those feelings, how are you going to feel? What's not going to happen? Because you got to know about those as well. And if you can create yourself a hashtag, then that's even better. Because, I had a situation where when I first started training people to speak, I had given up my corporate job. Andy Harrington, the creator of the Professional Speakers Academy, gave me an opportunity to coach some people speaking. I wasn't very confident, but he gave me the opportunity. I did it. But on my first day, somebody wrote a letter to Andy complaining about my coaching from the weekend before. And they said that I was very, I can't remember the exact words, but, like potty mouth and vulgar and not very professional and all the rest of it. And I remember in that moment absolutely being destroyed. That was my feeling. I felt destroyed, and I was worried because was Andy going to sack me, and I'd only just given up this whole bloody career. Oh my gosh, like I've never ever felt so vulnerable and scared and everything. And as the clock was ticking and the tears were flowing, like I'd got a job to do, so I had to pull myself together and do my very first coaching call for Andy. And I'm sure if I did still have a recording of that, it might not have been brilliant, but I knew more than the person on the other end of the line. And so the thing that really confused me was, why would somebody say all of those things when they knew me? Why didn't they say them to my face? Do you know what I mean? Anyway, I'm going to cut a story very, very, very long, because what had happened was there was a guy who had come into my group. This lady was there, and I had done a bit of bantering with him, and I dropped a few F-bombs. And the reason was because he was wanting to help people in the forces. Mm-hmm. And someone had created with him like the alternative holistic therapy course. And I was like, who's this for? And he was like, well, it's for like squaddies, I was like, this needs to be like a FUBAR system, up beyond all recognition. My husband had been in the army for 24 years. There's no way he was listening to holistic whatever. I said, you've got to meet people where they're at, and that's what she commented on. So I did learn that, have some consideration for somebody else who's in the group, Now I do say, if people don't like me swearing, then you might as well go somewhere else, because like I can't guarantee I won't, that's fine. But on that day, I also realised, looking back now, that she must have been in some pain. I must have triggered something in her, or whatever was going on. And it wasn't until years later, when I was speaking in Canada, that I saw her again, and she was in the audience and I was on stage. And I shared that story. I didn't plan to share it, but I did. And I just said, wherever you are, I hope that you are healed, and I hope that you are well. And I don't know why you did it. And actually, there's no point in me trying to figure it out. But I just know that it'll be because you needed something. But the one thing that I can say is a very gratefulness to Andy Harrington, because if he'd have gone with that and not looked at it, then there would have been thousands of people across this world that wouldn't have had the benefit of my amazingness. And I know that sounds a bit egotistical, but I am really freaking good at what I do. And so maybe the universe wanted to show me that. So this brings the fourth point, which is, how much do you really want it? Like, how much do you really want it? Because if you don't really, really, really freaking want it, and if you won't go through, like hell and high water for it, then quite frankly, you might as well save yourself a bit of time. Yeah. Just do something that you really, really want, that really motivates you. And for some people, they might not know what that is yet. Because I didn't until I got into this space, if that makes sense. So that's a long-winded threesome.
Oh, it's exactly plus, and with a bonus as well. So that's a great share. And I think that sense of hunger. So I think, here we are, beginning of the year, with our resolutions. You've got to be hungry for what it is.
Hungry.
Yeah.
Les Brown would say, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's great. Go with the feeling, right? Be hungry for it. Go with the feeling, visualize it as though you've already got it, and really, really know that you want it. So love it. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you. I'm sure, Cheryl, that after today's conversation, there are going to be people who love you. I described you as fun. Perhaps I should have used the word flamboyant, but who love your flamboyant ways and would want to come towards you to just find out more about what you do and how you do it. So tell me, what's the best way for people to find you and get in touch?
Yeah, the best way at the moment is actually just to send me an email directly, which is Cheryl, Cheryl, at Cheryl hyphen, or the takeaway sign, I say, Chapman.com. So Cheryl at Cheryl-Chapman.com. And just let me know, I saw you or I heard you on Alka's podcast. I'd really, this resonated. And, just let's start a conversation. I might be able to point you in the right direction. I might just be able to listen, or I might be able to show you the way where somebody else can help you. And that's perfectly fine.
Brilliant. I'll put those links up on the podcast description for sure. But thank you so much, Cheryl. That's definitely given me something to think about as we head into the new year, and thinking about my own resolve for the new year as well. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
And to everyone listening, I wish you a happy, healthy day.
Thanks for joining us on the Lifestyle First podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and share. To learn more, please visit www.dralkapatel.com.